So, tell me a little bit about what the Department of Defense is doing in social media.
Well, we're doing everything now.
Yay!
You know,
Exciting.
Yeah, we you know, everything from engaging bloggers to having Facebook pages to Twittering. We're doing all of it. Really started 3 years ago. Our centerpiece of the whole new media program. When we first started, I'm a Navy Public Affairs officer throughout my Navy career, and
so you're used to the traditional kind of public affairs,
exactly.
working with the media and all that
yeah,
kind of thing.
and we took those same fundamentals and principles that you use in doing media relations and kind of applied them to the new media situation. Okay. So when they first asked me to start new media 3 years ago for DoD, you know, I thought to myself, well, do we want to blog? No, we don't want to blog because that's just more official speak. I might as well put out a one-way press release. Right. I mean, they don't want to. People don't want to hear the spokesperson speaking on something. They want to go have a conversation, a two-way conversation with our subject matter experts. So we thought, okay, well, we'll take this one step further. Just like we handle traditional press, you start setting up relationships with the media. And you develop those throughout your career so that, you know, if I needed to correct a story that's in the press, I could call up the New York Times reporter and say, hey, I know you guys are going with this story, and here's some extra facts you guys probably should have in your hip pocket before you go out with this. So you develop those relationships. And we decided to do the same thing with bloggers. So we painstakingly sat down and emailed every blogger individually, and I'd say, hey, Andy, you know, I see you have this great blog and you're talking about a lot of issues surrounding Department of Defense. How would you like to talk to some of our top leaders in Iraq and Afghanistan? And that's how we started.
They're probably into that.
Oh, absolutely.
All of a sudden
whoa, big DOD just called them.
I can do that. Yeah, that's really cool.
And so it was very simple, cheap, and easy to do. A simple conference call. So I tell the bloggers, okay, we've got General Caldwell from Iraq that's going to be on, and I'll take the first 10 of you who roger up and sign up to be on the call. And so we'd take the first 10, we'd set up a regular old conference call, and they essentially got a chance to just dialogue with senior leaders.
The real people,
and the real people. Yeah, so that was kind of the starting point that we went with, and it was simply taking good traditional public relations methods and applying them in that medium.
And where does that transition to now? Because now there's a lot more going on. There's Facebook pages, there's Twitter, there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, well, as much as possible, some of the tenets we've learned in new media is, number one, you want to put your information where your audiences are going to get that information. So that was the one tenet. The second one you and I already talked about is it's a very self-correcting medium. Right.
So, yeah, that was a really interesting. I'd love to have you repeat that, because the idea that if a blogger says something that's wrong or says something that is overly negative, I mean, no longer do you have to say, hey, you have to change that, right? You could.
That's right.
Let the other guys.
Yeah, and well, number one, I don't mind people having their opinions. I mean, essentially, bloggers are the opinion piece writers of the universe right now. But, yeah, essentially, most of the times I don't have to do anything. Other bloggers will see that post. They had just been on the same conversation with that subject matter expert and said, no, you got that all wrong, that's, this and this and this. And you read the comments even on the blog itself, and people will, that know the subject matter will self-correct as well. I mean, so people who are, should not be afraid to venture in the medium, because it is things that you and I talked about. It's not about controlling the message anymore. It's about giving people as much information and resources and facts that they can to get that information out there, and then let that big massive conversation that's going on out there do its thing. So
and Department of Defense, of course, is Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. Am I missing anything?
Marines.
Marines, of course, I'm missing Marines. My Marine friends won't like that.
Trouble, yeah.
How do you get everyone to come together? I mean, it's like they're all separate, but at the same time, social media is the Department of Defense is a unit. It must be a challenge.
Well, it is a challenge even still today because we're very much about decentralization, and so it is very much a challenge. But as you do in new media, you don't depend on one avenue of information. You still use every single avenue at your disposal. Everything you can use. I mean, everything from external media to internal website to command information or administrative information. You have to use all of those avenues of communications. New media happens to be a very convenient one because if you look at our population, Department of Defense, about 2.4 million uniformed service members, well over 65% of them are digital natives. And
what was the percentage? 60?
Over 65% are digital natives, and I consider digital natives people under the age of about
8 or 9 or something.
Yeah, and they grew up in the medium, and it's not new to them.
No.
And this is how they communicate.
It's old media.
So yeah, so I think it gives us an added level of communications that we haven't had in the past, and with this generation.
My last sort of question is, I'm fascinated about how quickly things can break on a blog, or all of a sudden, let's say there's an aircraft that goes, an Air Force aircraft that goes down somewhere. I mean, bang! People can be talking about it immediately.
Yeah.
How does that whole immediacy play in? Because no longer it's like, well, we're going to write a press release and say this happened. It's like, bang! Everyone knows it happens.
Yeah.
That becomes a big challenge, I suppose.
Oh, it is. Even though I think most public affairs officers like that immediacy, because it's maximum disclosure, minimum delay is pretty much the mantra in military public affairs. But we were constrained by the hierarchy and all of those kind of things.
Let's call a press conference at 1400 and we'll talk about it. But meanwhile, it's out there.
But you do. The problem is you do have an added responsibility being a government representative or a government spokesperson, in that we have to check our facts. We have to make sure it's true before you go out and say it's true. So that's the only challenging part. But sometimes if people are already reporting it, the bits and pieces come together, just like we were talking about in the blogosphere, how it all comes together and self-corrects, and finally you get to the end, the end product. It can help with that, and it helps give us some more leverage for urgency to get things, through the system and checked and all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, thank you so much for speaking. I love everything that's going on. I'm a big fan of what's going on in all branches. It's really great. Thanks.
You're welcome.